We're gonna start this week's episode with a question. What do you think would happen to a coastal city if the sea level rose by 1 meter? 2 meters? What about 5 meters? Would it be uninhabitable or just pretty inconvenient? Turns out that we have a lot of real-world examples to look at because this isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's already happening. Cities like Miami and Venice are already experiencing some of the effects of rising sea levels. And although these effects aren't severe enough yet to make either city completely uninhabitable, they are causing millions of dollars in damages and threatening to displace hundreds of thousands of people. To find out just how bad things might get, we'll be looking at 3 case studies: Miami, Venice, and Jakarta. Now let's get back to those questions. What do you think would happen to a coastal city if the sea level rose by 1 meter? How about 2 meters? What about 5 meters? It turns out that we have a lot of real-world examples to look at, because this isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's already happening. Cities like Miami and Venice are already experiencing some of the effects of rising sea levels. And although these effects aren't severe enough yet to make either city completely uninhabitable, they are causing millions of dollars in damages and threatening to displace hundreds of thousands of people. To find out just how bad things might get, we'll be looking at 3 case studies: Miami, Venice, and Jakarta. Let's take Miami first. Sea levels in Miami have been rising at a rate of about 3.8 millimeters per year since 1995. But scientists predict that this rate will increase to 7.4 millimeters per year over the next 50 years due to climate change. This means that over the next 50 years, sea levels in Miami will rise somewhere between 18 and 20 centimeters. Although this is only 1/5 of a meter, the effects could still be devastating for Miami. Miami's built on porous limestone just a few feet above sea level, making it super vulnerable to rising waters. When the ocean rises, it seeps right into the ground. In some spots, high tides already flood the streets, especially during king tide events near Biscayne Bay. And it's not just those big tides. Even regular tidal flooding can cause serious traffic issues. So, yeah, flooding is a real problem here. Rising sea levels are causing serious erosion along the coast, and it's hitting places like Miami Beach hard. The city has thrown hundreds of millions into building seawalls to fend off those rising waters. But here's the catch: while these walls protect properties, they mess with the natural sand balance. Waves hit the wall, lose energy, and stop depositing sand, which leads to disappearing beaches and more erosion. To tackle this, Miami Beach has started using big rocks called riprap to stabilize the shore. Unfortunately, that creates its own issues like ugly boulders, harming sea turtle nests, and giving a home to invasive species. It's a tricky situation. Rising sea levels are a big deal, and honestly, these engineering fixes are just going to get pricier and less effective. Miami is already losing about 1.6 acres of land each year, which is pretty alarming. So yeah, people might have to pack up and leave, turning it into a ghost town. While we've got some time, maybe 50 to 100 years, other experts warn that Miami could face serious flooding in just 20 years. Even if things stay the same, by 2100, Miami will be really underwater. Okay, now let's go back to our hypothetical question. What would happen if sea levels rose by 2 meters? Well, if sea levels were to rise by 2 meters, it would be catastrophic for Miami. Much of the city would be underwater, and large swaths of the population would need to be relocated. Even the famous South Beach would be completely underwater. Now, this too seems unlikely to happen anytime soon. Scientists estimate that a 2-meter rise in sea level would require an additional 40 centimeters rise after the year 2100. At the current rate of rise, that means it would take another 300 years. But if the current rate increases to 7.4 millimeters per year, then it would only take 50 years. So what about 5 meters? If sea levels were to rise by 5 meters, then Miami would be completely destroyed. But this scenario isn't unique to Miami. There are lots of low-lying coastal cities around the world that face similar threats. Take Venice, Italy, for example. Venice sits on a lagoon about 100 kilometers from the ocean. The Adriatic Sea surrounds Venice on 3 sides, and a series of canals and small islands separate the sea from the lagoon. This creates a natural barrier that protects Venice from most of the ocean's fury. But rising sea levels are already starting to have negative effects on Venice. Like Miami, Venice is sinking. However, unlike Miami, this is a result of human activity. Over the past century, Venice has built up a lot of landfill in the lagoon to accommodate the city's growing population. This has resulted in a loss of natural wetlands that used to help protect the city from flooding. As a result, Venice is becoming increasingly vulnerable to storms and high tides. Venice got hit hard in November 2022, facing its worst floods in 50 years. Water levels shot up to 1.8 meters above normal, flooding 80% of the city and causing billions in damage. Flooding like this used to be rare, but it's getting worse. Venice has these movable flood barriers called mows, designed to protect the city during storms. They're huge steel gates that can be raised or lowered quickly. But here's the kicker. The system has had a ton of issues since it was finished in 2003. One gate even broke down in 2008, letting salt water into the lagoon and wiping out thousands of fish. Many locals want Mo's gone because it's just too pricey to keep up. But scientists warn that without it, Venice could be completely underwater by 2100. Crazy, right? As sea levels rise, Venice will continue to sink. Eventually, it will be too damaged to ever recover. We don't know exactly how long it will be habitable, but it's likely that sometime in the future, the city will be abandoned. Jakarta, Indonesia, is a bustling city on Java's northwest coast, home to over 10 million people, making it the second most populated city in the world. But here's the kicker: it's sinking faster than anywhere else. The main culprit? Groundwater extraction? Pulling water from underground aquifers is causing the land to collapse. Plus, being on a delta where freshwater meets saltwater makes Jakarta super vulnerable to rising sea levels. It's a real mess, and something needs to be done. For example, in 2013, a king tide caused massive flooding in Jakarta. The water rose as high as 2.4 meters in some areas, inundating entire neighborhoods and causing billions of dollars in damages. A study published in 2015 found that Jakarta is sinking at a rate of 1 to 2 millimeters per year. However, other research suggests that the rate of sinking is accelerating and could reach as high as 10 millimeters per year. This would mean that in less than 100 years, Jakarta could be completely underwater. To make matters worse, Jakarta is located in an area known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. This means that it is highly prone to earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, both of which can trigger tsunamis. A 2004 tsunami triggered by an earthquake in the Indian Ocean caused widespread devastation in Jakarta. More recently, in 2018, a volcanic eruption on nearby Mount Vesuvius caused another devastating tsunami. All this means that Jakarta is particularly vulnerable to any increase in sea levels. Even a small rise of 1 or 2 meters would cause massive flooding and displace millions of people. As sea levels rise, 3 cities are at risk of sinking and becoming unlivable. The good news: scientists say we've got 50 to 100 years before they're seriously affected. That gives us time to brainstorm solutions. We could build giant domes to keep the cities dry, or even create artificial islands for the millions who might be displaced. Maybe geoengineering can help lower global temperatures too. But we need to act fast otherwise. These once great cities could end up underwater. Thanks for watching this episode of Life Noggin. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to learn more about the science behind rising sea levels, check out the link in the description. And as always, this has been your host. Don't forget to keep on thinking. The year is 2050, and Miami is underwater. Florida's most populous city has been ravaged by extreme weather events, made worse by the steady rise in sea levels. Flooding is everywhere. Homes and businesses have been destroyed, and many of the 6 million people who live here have been forced to abandon their homes and flee inland. The streets are empty except for the occasional unlucky passerby who is now swimming with the fishes. On the surface, this may seem like a far-fetched doomsday scenario, but in reality, it's a future that is already underway. Rising sea levels are threatening coastal cities all over the world, from New York to Shanghai to Tokyo, and in some parts of the world, they're even higher than expected. So what exactly is causing sea levels to rise? And why should we care? To understand what's going on, let's start with the basics. As the climate warms, glaciers and ice sheets melt, adding more water to the oceans. But that's not the only thing that's happening. As ocean temperatures rise, water expands in volume. That means that even if melting ice isn't adding any additional water to